I used to be a delinquent. Introverts like you should just follow me if you don't want to get in trouble. Shut up and give me some money. Nicole, the self-proclaimed former delinquent mom friend, always finds a way to get involved, despite looking down on working mom friends. She's the one demanding money in the end. She pretends like she never asked for money at all. I couldn't help but reveal my true self to Nicole. Finally, the time came for me to confront her. I'm Sally, 32 years old, and I'm raising 2 kids in kindergarten while working from home. I've tried to keep my interactions with kindergarten mom friends as unobtrusive as possible. To put it simply, I'm like someone who follows the group leader and stays on the sidelines. I've been quietly keeping a low profile because I don't want to get involved in any trouble. Even so, there are still cliques among the mom friends, and I was forcefully put into the current group. Well, maybe they chose me because I seemed like someone who wouldn't refuse if they asked forcefully enough. I've also been invited by mom friends from other cliques, but I've been discreetly declining those invitations because I didn't want to get caught up in any complications by showing favoritism. However, among the mom friends from the other cliques, there's one who's a bit of a nuisance. Hey, you were an introvert back in your school days, right? The one bothering me is Nicole, a mom friend from another clique. For some reason, she's been talking to me lately. I went to the same school as you. You were the quiet type who sat in the corner reading books to pass the time. It seems like you haven't changed even as a high school student. Nicole approached me. When I asked if she had something to say, Nicole seemed irritated by my attitude, which didn't care about her sarcasm. You're so cheeky for an introvert with glasses, she spat out these words and walked away. I wondered why I had to bother with her when it was clear she had come to be sarcastic rather than have a normal conversation. As I walked, I spotted an old friend. Hey, Maria, I called out to her. She looked puzzled at first, but when I introduced myself, she seemed to remember and showed a bright smile. I reunited with my old friend after 24 years. Maria had recently moved here, and her child would be attending the same kindergarten next year. We reminisced about the past and became friends who would stay in touch again. Old friends are indeed easygoing to be with. From then on, I tried to avoid getting involved with Nicole. However, Nicole frequently approached me. The reason behind it was because Nicole was alienated within her own clique. Other mom friends told me that Nicole had a habit of lying and had a bad reputation, so they kept their distance from her, especially when it came to their children. It seemed like Nicole approached me because she didn't want to be alone. The leader of that mom group is always bragging about being rich. She goes to a spa one day and eats at a famous restaurant the next. She's probably just spending her husband's money however she likes, yet she looks down on others. Doesn't that annoy you too? After dropping off our children at kindergarten, I always ended up caught by Nicole. I had to listen to her complaints every day. Is that so? It's actually quite enviable to have money you can spend freely, I responded. Nicole gave me a cold stare and said, "Stop being so stubborn. You always wear cheap clothes like a poor person, but your pride is high." Nicole laughed loudly. When I said, "I'll be leaving now?" Nicole replied, "You always put on this innocent face, but I wonder if you're actually up to something dangerous in secret. I'd like to see your true nature," muttering something behind me. Anyway, I didn't want to have anything to do with Nicole, so I had been walking to and from kindergarten. However, starting from the next week, I decided to drive instead. Whenever I saw Nicole, I would quickly get into my car and escape. As soon as Nicole was in sight, I quickly got into my car and drove away. During such days, it was unlikely to never get caught. Finally, one day, Nicole caught up with me. "You've been avoiding me, haven't you?" she complained, but I couldn't admit that I had been avoiding her, so I denied it. "Is that so? Well, it's fine then. By the way, is your husband wealthy? I heard he's the next president of the company." I felt irritated that Nicole had access to such personal information. "He's just a regular company employee," I replied. In reality, my husband is a company employee, but given that he will eventually inherit the family business and become the president, I wondered how she knew about it when I hadn't told anyone. One day, I was invited to a lunch gathering, and to my surprise, there was a different Nicole in the group. According to other mom friends, it seemed like she had switched cliques. "Sally, hi." Because of her overly familiar behavior, people assumed that Nicole and I were close. This assumption led others to feel reassured and accept the situation, thinking if we got along well, everything must be fine. Since I was forcibly included in the group and was only participating for the sake of my child, I never bothered to clarify that Nicole and I weren't close. However, this incident led to significant turmoil within the group. I got up to go to the restroom, and Nicole followed me. This group seems quite dull, doesn't it? The previous group had the president's wife as the leader of the mom group, and the other moms were wives of venture capitalists or employees of large companies. But the people here are mostly wives of regular employees or dual-income families. She immediately started to make sarcastic remarks. I can't believe some of them work part-time. It's the epitome of being poor. I've never worked a day in my life. Well, I thought to myself that she could always go back to her previous group if she had complaints. I let Nicole's comment slide. "Oh, wait a minute, I forgot my wallet. Can you lend me some money?" She had the audacity to say that. I'm not sure about lending money." I hesitated. "Are you trying to embarrass me? It's just $20. I'll pay you back tomorrow. Isn't that okay?" Nicole had an oddly condescending tone. I reluctantly handed her some money under the table before settling the bill. After that, Nicole started asking me for money regularly, but she always paid me back the next day, so I didn't mind and would give her some from my allowance. One day, when I went to pick up the kids from kindergarten, Nicole invited us to go have dessert. The kids were excited and eager to go, so I agreed. After calming down while eating dessert, Nicole finally spoke up. "By the way, I heard you started working recently," she said, catching me off guard. Only a few people knew that I had started working, so I couldn't help but wonder how she found out. I was surprised that my personal information might have been leaked. I mustered the courage to ask her where she had heard about both my husband's job and my current job. I just looked it up myself," she replied in a matter-of-fact tone. Regarding my husband's job, she'd apparently found his social media profiles. Although his name wasn't on his profile, many of his social media friends were from the same company, so she made an educated guess. She mentioned that she had researched the company name and confirmed that the CEO's last name matched mine. She said she did it to get me to tell her the truth. As for my job, she claimed she'd heard about it from the leader of the mom group. I had already informed the mom group leader about my work, anticipating that I might have to decline lunch meetings due to work commitments, so it seemed she already knew about it. She asked me various questions about what kind of work I was doing. When I mentioned that I worked from home, Nicole expressed interest in doing something similar and asked me to teach her how. I explained that even though it's remote work, I'm a freelancer who takes on various projects, so our skills might be different, and we have to find clients on our own. "Well, do you need any help? I can assist you at a low hourly rate," she said. I clarified that since I work on a contract basis with clients, I can't have someone help me. "Well, it's just pocket money for housewives, right? Is it some simple task? By the way, I tried doing piecework once, but the hourly rate was so low I quit. Anyway, good luck." She spoke dismissively and laughed as if she were looking down on me. As time passed, Nicole contacted me less and less, and she stopped approaching me altogether. I had walked with other mom friends once, so it seemed like I had found someone I could get along with. Recently, since I wasn't spending much time with Nicole, other mom friends started reaching out to me. However, it seems Nicole had been speaking ill of me behind my back. Well, such things happen among women, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. I hoped that our peaceful daily life could continue without any disturbances. However, it didn't last long. "Long time no see. It seems like work is going well for you. I heard you got a new car too. How about giving me $2,000, Nicole said as soon as we met at the kindergarten. I was taken aback by the amount, even compared to what she had asked for before, and I told her it was impossible. "Huh? Your husband is the next CEO and you're working too, so $2K is nothing, right?" "Heartless woman, give me the money," she demanded. If $2,000 was considered nothing, she could earn it herself by working. But what did she think of other people's hard-earned money anyway? "Lending such a large sum of money is impossible," I told her. "Huh? What are you saying? I'm not asking you to lend it to me. Do you think you can talk to me like that?" Nicole crossed her arms and laughed, as if she was mocking me, I looked puzzled, and Nicole said, I used to be a delinquent, you know. Introverts like you have no use for me. Anyway, there's no purpose for you. I'll find a meaningful use for you, so if you don't want to get in trouble, give me the money. Quietly, she said to me. When I questioned what she meant by meaningful use, Nicole retorted, That's none of your business. If there's a repayment plan and you're willing to sign a promissory note, then I might consider lending it to you. Nicole agreed and signed a promissory note while promising to repay within a week. When the 1-week deadline for repayment came, I contacted Nicole to remind her to pay back the money. Huh? What are you talking about? She pretended not to know. Well, there's a promissory note, and I think you can't avoid it, I conveyed. Nicole replied as if mocking me. Did you properly check the promissory note? Her reply came with a tone that seemed almost mocking. No matter how many times I checked the promissory note, I couldn't understand the meaning behind Nicole's words. I tried to talk to her directly to ask her, but Nicole was blatantly avoiding me. Even when I approached her during kindergarten-related matters, she would ignore me. Moreover, when I tried to talk to other mom friends, they also began to act distant. This continued for about 2 weeks. However, during this time, I was summoned by the leader of the mom group and told that I should step away from the group. Not that I had been deeply involved or that it had any real consequences for me, so being removed from the group wasn't a problem. However, if I had to say, I was worried it might affect the children, and my concern turned out to be correct. My child was crying because they couldn't go to the other children's home to play. When I asked for the reason, it turned out that it was because they had been told not to associate with us. I contacted Clara, one of the mom friends I still had some connection with in the group, and asked why such an exclusion was happening. Clara started speaking apologetically. According to her, Nicole had invited her to a family restaurant, and when she arrived, members other than me were present. Nicole claimed that she had heard I often complained about the mom friends in the group and that this had angered the leader of the mom group. According to Nicole, the leader had decided to remove anyone causing disturbances within the group. Hearing this, I was furious. I had never spoken ill of not only the mom friends within the group, but also the mom friends from other groups until now. When I told these mom friends that what Nicole had been saying was not true, I found it hard to believe that Sally was bad-mouthing others because of what Nicole had said. But everyone's opinions aligned, and it turned out like this. I'm sorry, she apologized, saying thanks to these mom friends. I realized that Nicole was trying to portray me as the villain and isolate me. Furthermore, after I left, it seemed that things became awkward within the group and there were frequent fights. Afterward, I went to talk to each mom friend in the group. Except for the leader of the mom group, everyone had heard bad things from Nicole, and the conversation went smoothly. We decided to call the mom group leader to a cafe. The mom group leader was surprised to see me instead of Nicole. But with the cooperation of the other mom friends, we could resolve the misunderstanding. It became clear that Nicole had been spreading false rumors and talking nonsense about each of us. All the mom friends were angry, and one of them started complaining about Nicole. I was surprised to hear the complaints, but it seems that Nicole had also borrowed money from the other mom friends. I also lent her tens of dollars during payments. She asked for $2,000 recently. When I mentioned this, other mom friends said they were also asked for loans. Well, I was the only one asked for $2,000, but it seems like she was demanding money from everyone. Some people, like me, have written promissory notes, while others have been contacted through messages. After considering various options, we decided to confront Nicole directly. 1 week later, we summoned Nicole to a family restaurant. What? Why is Sally here? Have you already reconciled? Seriously, women change their attitudes so quickly, don't they? Nicole said these words as soon as we met, and I had reached my limit. Besides, you would be the one changing your attitude quickly. I'm furious, not only because you've been spreading baseless rumors and bad-mouthing others, but also because we called you to resolve the issue of the money everyone has lent. When I said this, Nicole's expression changed. What are you all sharing that much? It's a violation of privacy, she exclaimed. I was angry. If you talk about violating privacy, what about you spreading baseless rumors about everyone? Isn't that a violation of privacy too? She replied, I'm fine with it, but you guys aren't, she conveniently said. Anyway, I told her to repay the money to everyone. Look, Examine the promissory note carefully. My full name is Nicole Clark, but on the promissory note, it says Nicole Clark, right? It's invalid. Mom friends were unsettled by Nicole's words, saying, "It's true, so we won't get the money back. What should we do?" Mom friends were confused. "We've been talking about it in messages, right? This can be evidence." One mom friend showed her mobile phone, and Nicole snatched it and deleted the messages. Amidst words like disgusting being thrown around, Nicole laughed and said, "You should think that you won't get your money back when you lend it, right? It's your fault for being ignorant. Don't go against me, a former delinquent, in a gathering of introverts. I'll even call my old friends." Nicole provocatively continued. Her words pushed my anger to its peak. "You're getting too full of yourself by staying quiet." My voice unintentionally raised, and I realized that my true self had emerged. I could feel the gazes of people around us. "Oh, I apologize, forgetting that we were in a family restaurant. I apologize to the people around us for raising my voice." Then I turned to Nicole. "You act all high and mighty talking about your past as a former delinquent. Aren't you embarrassed? Actually, you're not a former delinquent at all, are you?" In response to my words, "Huh? Don't underestimate me. I can call my old friends if you want," Nicole said. I challenged her to go ahead and call them. Nicole started making a call, but she couldn't reach anyone. "Maybe it's busy because it's lunchtime." She hurriedly made excuses. I was exasperated by Nicole's behavior. Bringing up such old stuff is embarrassing in itself, so I kept quiet. But don't you remember this? I took off my glasses and looked at Nicole, who turned pale. The other mom friends looked puzzled. "Oh, Sally? Is that you? Could it be from high school?" I stared at her in all seriousness, and Nicole started trembling uncontrollably. "By the way, Maria is also coming to this kindergarten from next year," I said with a smile, and Nicole started sweating profusely out of nervousness. "It's better to be kind now," I whispered softly. Nicole immediately changed her attitude. "I apologize for everything until now. I'm sorry. I think I need some time, but I'll return the money properly," she apologized to the other mom friends. "By the way, even if you change your name slightly, the promissory note doesn't become invalid, and erasing message history can be recovered." Upon hearing these words, Nicole said, "Yes, I'm sorry." She apologized again in a small voice. The mom friends, although shaken, seemed to accept it, and the situation was resolved. I didn't want to mention my past, but the truth is, I used to be in a delinquent group as well. Nicole was a junior in the same group. Back then, during that time, I had dyed hair, no eyebrows, and I looked nothing like the typical housewife I am now. Even Maria, my old friend, didn't recognize me, and she was part of that group. Back then, Maria and I were close friends. This was a past I wanted to hide from my child for a lifetime, and I really didn't want to talk about it. But with someone like Nicole, who wouldn't listen to reason, I thought it would be highly effective. However, I had only told the mom friends that these were acquaintances from the past. I'm sure they realized it was best not to inquire further. During the mom friends discussions, the idea of removing Nicole from the group came up, but I decided it would be better to keep her under close supervision. Nicole, on the other hand, seemed to insist on leaving the group, probably because she had caused so much trouble. However, I couldn't allow that. Afterward, Nicole repaid the money she had borrowed from the mom friends within a month. This was because Nicole's husband apologized and returned the money. He had learned of the situation, apologized, and repaid the borrowed money. By the way, it seems that Nicole's money was used for gambling. After all, Nicole had to take up a part-time job, something she had always looked down upon, and she complained about the hardships of her first-ever job. Currently, she works 5 days a week and is desperately repaying the debts to her husband. Nicole's attitude towards those around her has changed as well. She no longer makes sarcastic remarks or looks down on others. It seems that experiencing her first job made her realize the challenges of balancing work and childcare. While no one gave a clear answer, they acknowledged that there had been various issues in different factions once the group began communicating. On the other hand, I started contacting mom friends I hadn't been very close to before. Instead of just attending lunch meetings and remaining silent, I decided to engage in conversation with mom friends. I realized that this was necessary to avoid misunderstandings, as demonstrated by this situation. Above all, what concerns me the most is ensuring that my child never finds out about my past. I have sworn to take that secret to my grave. Nowadays, the group divisions have become irrelevant, and while there are still differences in compatibility, everyone gets along. My work, family, and friendships are going well, and I've even made some new friends. I'm leading a happy life.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.